This is Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. They say I'm the most violent, most brutal, most vicious federal prisoner ever to walk into the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Today I'm 52 years old, and I sit in USP Hazleton, serving life. Surrounded by men that are angry, that are violent, that want to unleash their violence on others. There are some men among us that are less violent. Some men that don't even belong here. Some men that are not willing to do what I'm willing to do. Some men that are not willing to do what others are willing to do. And that means kill. Kill if you have to. But some kill because they want to. Others do it because there's an urge. They say I killed him and tasted his liver. Can you even believe that after all of that, they have let me back in population among the undesirables? Joey Estrella was a bank robber, not a bad dude. But they put him in a cell with us. And we decided that his blood should be left on the razor wire. Boy, he fought and he fought. But did he really think that he could fight my cousin William and win? Did he not think that together we would punish him in the most gruesome, most violent, most brutal way? He wasn't really that bad of a dude, like I said. But the violence was in me. It's been in me for a long time. This is not Scared Straight, nor is it some scary movie that you can walk away from. I am the guy you heard about. I could be your cellmate if you never change your life and make it here. And maybe we will go on lockdown and I might feel like eating your lunch because I'm hungry. What would you do? Or maybe you might go to sleep and the urges inside of me are uncontrollable. And then I lash out. I was born on the island of Sapin, which is part of the Marinas Islands, where the famous Marinas Trench is located. I'm from a poor family with a very abusive father. He would discipline me with extreme violence. The abuse started when I was just a toddler. Maybe that is why I despise people that hurt kids. It is no secret I was put through every kind of physical abuse that you could think of. I guess that is why I became so ruthless myself. Some can say I'm a sociopath, a psycho. Guess maybe I am. Crime is all I knew as I grew older, but hate and anger were brewing inside of me. Law enforcement was always on my tail. But there was a desire to change. I thought that I needed a new start, and I headed to Guam to evade the cops, law enforcement. In my young mind, I wanted a new life. I wanted to put crime behind me, get a job, meet a nice girl, maybe be a father someday. But life had other plans for me. The cards that were dealt to me were much different than yours, possibly. Or maybe they were the same. And maybe I took things to extremes. Things never changed. I felt like a demon, that something vicious was brewing inside of me. The urge could only be quenched by unleashing the violence that welled up inside. I ended up in juvenile hall for cracking a head or two, and I enjoyed doing it. I eventually graduated from juvie to the big house on Guam along with my bro, Jose. He too was in prison for killing his wife. Guam DOC, what could they do to me? I had a plan to kill the boss man at the prison. And the next thing I know, someone revealed my plan, and I was on the next thing smoking to Lompoc. I've been everywhere from Lompoc to USP Atlanta to USP Florence to ADX. And then, where I'm at now, Hazleton. Guess it's my journey, you can say. Bank robber Joey Estrella. Yeah, we were drinking in the hole. 3 men inside of a cell that was designed for 2. They call this the special housing unit. Nothing special about it. You know how things go in the street when people are getting blasted on the devil's potion? Same thing here. Sometimes fights get started and sometimes they end real bad. Many people have been killed in federal prison over drinking. Far too much blood left on the razor wire when wine is involved. I don't really know how it all got started. At first we were all joking, laughing. But the more we drank, the more we wanted blood. The guards knew we had a batch brewing, and they knew we were enjoying every drop. It was not long before Joey started arguing with William over what I cannot for the life of me remember. I tried. When I sat in the ADX all those years, but it's all like a fog now. It's all like a fog. Wish they never sent me to this place. This place is filled with murder, mayhem, corruption. It's located in the gently rolling hills of southern Colorado, dotted with juniper, poplar, and cedar trees. Florence is a quiet, small town that was once a prison town without a prison. At just over 5,000 town residents, Florence shares its views of the Sangre de Cristo mountain range with its thrice larger sister city 4 miles west, Canaan City. It's home to a sprawling collection of 8 state prisons and ranging from minimum security to the state supermax, CSP. With no prisons of its own, Florence residents who worked in the prison system had to work in the Canaan City complex, where the prisons date to the 1871 Colorado territorial days. Towering over 800 feet above Canaan City is the famous Skyline Drive, built on the backs of convict chain gangs in 1903. Yeah, prisoners built this place. Yet Florence remained without distinction. The world's highest suspension bridge, 1,053 feet, built in 1929, crosses the Royal Gorge just outside Canaan City. Yet Florence, within sight of Canaan City, remained unnoticed. Unnoticed, that is, until 1993, when politicians came together with the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prisons, put Florence on the map by opening the Florence Federal Correctional Complex on a 600-acre site donated by the city. Of course it was donated by the city. It was going to create jobs. It was going to fill this place with angry, violent men. The complex contained the maximum security USP Penitentiary Florence and 2 lesser security facilities. It wasn't long. In 1994, the plan was already in. That's when the ADX was built. At a capacity of 484, ADX is the BOP's flagship Supermax facility. It's touted by the mainstream media as the prototype for the nation's Supermax security prisons, but it is better known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, the successor to the USP Marion Hellhole, which replaced Alcatraz in 1963. The deepest, most heavily guarded, most closely watched hole in the BOP system. It was once the home office of the Aryan Brotherhood. When this murder was committed there by me, there were 10 BOP maximum security facilities, and USP Florence was unsurpassed in its violence and corruption. And Assistant U.S. Attorney Gregory Goldberg succinctly stated last December, USP Florence is the bloodiest prison in America. Together, their violence and corruption run deep into the prisoner ranks, the guards, and the administration. The surroundings of Florence belly the evil, dark, dank, dreary dungeons of despair that are USP Florence, its special housing SHU, and ADX. So violent was USP Florence that in 2000 a jury acquitted 2 maximum security prisoners of attempted escape based on their fear of violence at USP Florence. Tony Francis was specifically found not guilty by reason of distress. Francis's duress stemmed from his earlier misidentification as a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, a predominantly white prison gang by the television program America's Most Wanted. This eventually led to death threats which became all too real for Francis as racial murders swept through USP Lewisburg, his former facility, and onto his location at USP Florence. By October 1997, caught in a no man's land between racial tension and no AB backing, Francis knew it was time to go. He had to escape. After a 10-day prison-wide lockdown in September of 1997, Francis was directly threatened by black prisoners who had seen America's Most Wanted. And they told Francis, when this shit jumps off, you know what time it is. 2 weeks later, a kite reconfirmed the threat. Francis enlisted the help of his only close friend, Robert Haney, who understood the exigent nature of Francis' request. With Haney's preparatory help, the duo stowed away in the maximum security yard, complete with gear to aid in their escape. Haney then convinced Francis that getting caught trying to escape would bring less additional time than actually escaping, would land the pair in SHU or ADX, not as check-ins, subject to potential extreme violence, but as stand-up cons. You see, going to another prison and being labeled a check-in could have put them in danger. But if they escaped, then they're a con's con. Auditioning for a cell in solitary confinement was preferable to seeking assistance from guards and being labeled a snitch or facing the violence of protective custody. The move would also separate them, if only for a while, from the threats to Francis's life. Getting caught was harder than they thought, although it was after evening lockup. It took 2 hours of scattering equipment across the maximum security yard, including a homemade grappling hook and ladders, poles, and a duffel bag full of food, clothes, medical supplies, a compass, and cayenne pepper, all in plain view of up to 7 guard towers. Both Francis and Haney were convicted of possessing escape paraphernalia, but not attempting escape even though Haney was denied the duress defense jury instruction used by Francis, but as a third party. This is a jury statement that the BOP runs a system that is incapable of mitigating the violence that exists there, says Francis's attorney David Lane. And this is where they sent me. This is where they sent me. With my beer goggles on, William and Joey looked like two drunks who wanted to fight. They started going at it. Lefts and rights being thrown, and old Joey was holding his own. At least for round 1. And then even in round 2. I was laughing, egging them on, talking shit like we do here in the feds. But after round 2, I could not control my impulses any longer. I think the fight and the violence made me thirsty. The violence inside of me was shaking like an uncontrollable earthquake. And that's when it happened. A headphone cord was in my hands. Next thing I knew, it was around his neck as he struggled to get loose. I felt like I was taking his energy away. Like I was getting stronger. Perhaps I was like Samson. Next, the razor was cutting deep into his throat. Yeah, one of those shitty ones they give you out here in the shoe. With some sawing, his life was slowly leaving here. I looked into his eyes and I saw the fear. A fear that I have never experienced before. I could have let him live, but decided against it. Today was his day. He was going to meet his maker like so many other have here at USP Florence. I felt strong as we howled like wolves on a full moon night. All I could do was laugh. A black heart that is no longer redeemable. It's inside of my chest. It beats fast. The sweat is pouring down my face. The anger subsiding with each breath that he takes. I was yelling in my own language. The other prisoners were tucked away in their cells. Safe from me, safe from my rage. Or were they? Tonight was the night that my life transformed into a demon. Like Hannibal Lecter, I ripped open his stomach and his intestines fell out. What a sight to see. The blood seeped from under the door. Hannibal really had nothing on me. I took out his liver and spleen as if he were an animal that I just sacrificed. I thought of the day when I was a hunter. I tasted the heart of a deer. Today, I would taste Joey's liver. I dissected it as the autopsy report says, and I did the unthinkable. I became a cannibal like Hannibal. I gnawed away as my cousin howled in our native tongue. Some guys liked him, including this piece of shit farmer, another prisoner. He called out as if he could save him. Joey! Yo, Joey! I replied, too late for him. Do you want something to eat, farmer? He tried to get out of the cell before all this happened, and Saxon Taylor had it right when he testified at the Francis Haney trial, that Estrella begged a guard to be moved to another cell shortly before the killing. The guard just laughed and said, "Who's winning?" The guard knew we were in here fighting. He's seen us fighting. He looked in. But did he know that he was fighting for his life? Did he know that Joey Estrella was fighting for his life, as Farmer called out to him? Afterwards, I held up pieces of Estrella as an object lesson. You know this guy in the cell across, Saxon Taylor? I wanted to scare him. I showed him the insides just to scare him a bit. Afterwards, I sat on the table and smoked a cigarette. You can see it in the pictures that have never been released to the public. You see me there smoking that cigarette? You see it. When they came to get me, the cops, that is, I had had enough. I cuffed up and left the cell looking one more time at the damage that I had done. Damage has always been a part of my life. When the government sought the death penalty for me, they outlined it all. All the violence that had been in my jacket throughout the prison system. I didn't think about Estrella's mother. I didn't think about if he had kids. I don't even know why I killed him, why I sacrificed him. Am I the most brutal, most violent prisoner? There's many here. There's many here. Many, many, many here. There was an incident that became known among staff as the Weekend at Bernie's incident, in reference to a bad taste movie where a corpse is dragged around as if alive. Frank Melendez was murdered by his cellmate, Marisa Arias Reyes. Melendez was a California cocaine dealer. He got into an argument with Aria Reyes, a drug smuggler with a deep hatred of informants, even compelling some cellies to sign a statement not to discuss his case, serving time for illegal reentry into the United States. Ariza Reyes told a shoe guard, "I took care of that snitch for you," when he finally revealed that his cellie was dead. But this was 4 days after Melendez suffered blows to the head, chest and knees, and then he was strangled. 4 days he laid in that cell before anybody knew. SHU documents reveal that Melendez was counted numerous times, received his meals, was escorted to the shower, and even took his regular exercise time in the yard, all while lying dead in his cell. On paper, Melendez was present and accounted for something like 20 times after he was dead. He was dead, yet counted. The acts of violence are just the tip of an iceberg that sinks deep into the sea of violence that is USP Florence. The violence that I committed was violence like they've never seen before. What does my record read like? April 11th, 1988. See, the government put forth all this paperwork when they were seeking the death penalty for me. Didn't work. They let me live. I don't know how. See, I wasn't scared to die. Not at all. Still I'm scared to die. So I mean they can do nothing to me here. April 11th, 1988, containing the factual statement that the charge arises out of the assault by the defendant upon Jose C. Camacho on December 4th, 1986, with a belt and a belt buckle about the facial area, causing several deep lacerations and semi-consciousness to Mr. Camacho. In early 1995, myself and 2 homeboys from the Pacific tried to kill John Cruz. He was from Guam. He was in the movie theater. I wanted to kill him. I wanted to know what it was like to take his life. He had done something to someone I was close to. He never knew what was coming. I came from my right and went down the second or third aisle in the center section. That's where I pulled out my knife. They held his arms as I stabbed away. I did not get him as good as I wanted. 4 stab wounds to the face and the body. The alarm went off. It startled me. I threw the knife. It was 9 inches long. The cops eventually found it, and off to the SHU I went. I was living the life that you see in movies. Like I told you, I am the guy they talk about. I showed up at USP Atlanta. I found my new home. There was another guy there from Korea, Kyong Kwan Mun. He was supposed to be a part of the Asian family gang, but he rejected my proposal. I offered my hand in friendship and brotherhood, and he rejected it. That's how it works in here. If you're from where we are from, or you're part of our heritage, you're going to get down or get beat down. When he rejected my proposal, I felt disrespected. This is prison. We have to stick together. As we talked, I pulled the ice pick out of my glove and gave him his due. He tried to fight back, but I hit him in the neck and back as he ran for help. 12-inch ice pick goes in like butter. It goes in just like butter. Alan Carino was all suited up for the trial like the rest of them. The government wrote it. They wrote this. This is what Carino told them. It is anticipated that Mr. Carino's testimony will include the following. In an interview at the time of the assault, Carino identified Rudy Sablan and 2 other inmates as his assailants. Carino, Sablan, and 1 other inmate were together in Carino's cell playing cards. The remaining inmate was standing at the cell door. Sablan and 2 other inmates then jumped up on Carino and forced him to the cell floor. Carino heard a pop and realized he had been stabbed in the ear. He did not see which inmate did the stabbing, and the knife remained in his ear. Sablan and the other 2 inmates continued to stomp and kick him while he lay on the floor. During the struggle, Carino was able to pull the knife from his ear and swing it at the other inmates. They tried to get the knife from him, but could not. Sablan and the 2 other inmates ran out of the cell, and Carino followed with the knife in his pocket. In a recent interview at San Quentin Prison in San Francisco, California, Carino recalled the following. As the card game progressed, there was a general prison alert advising of a 10-minute move. Carino stood up and prepared to leave the cell, but Rudy Sablan bent down low to the ground behind Carino. Then Mike Palacios pushed Carino, and Carino fell backwards over Rudy. Now Carino recalls that it was Palacios who attempted to stab him, striking him in the ear, and that Carino was able to get the knife out of Palacios' hand. Carino stated that after he grabbed the knife, he was able to stab Palacios in the leg. And there were more reports about me, demonizing me as the violent prisoner, the most gruesome, the most brutal. It is anticipated that Officer Martinez's testimony will include the following. Officer Martinez responded to a duress alarm in cell 110 at 10:15 p.m. on A Range in the Special Housing Unit SHU of USP Florence. He saw inmate Mesner lying face down on the mattress on the floor, his feet and hands tied with thin strips of torn sheets, while Rudy Sablan and another inmate stood over him. You see, we tied him up. He had violated, and we were here for him to pay. Menzer was bleeding profusely from the head and face. His anticipated Officer Jensen's testimony will include the following. that Officer Jensen heard yelling coming from range A1 in the shoe of USP Florence about 4:20 p.m. He looked into cell A114 and saw inmates Couch and Hemmings in an argument and ordered them to separate. Rudy Sablan tried to separate them, but Couch hit Sablan in the face with a closed fist. Sablan and Hemmings then began hitting Couch in the face with their fists and kicked and stomped him in the face and head. Sablan refused the order to separate and had to be physically separated. Officer Brown conducted a routine shakedown of Rudy Sablan's cell at FCI Englewood, while Sablan was in court on February 9, 2001. Officer Brown confiscated writing pens and matchbook strikers from his cell, neither of which are allowed in the cells in the SHU. When Sablan returned from court, he said to Brown, "Hey you are the motherfucker that shook my room down this morning, aren't you?" Officer Brown told him yes and explained why he had removed the items. Before he could finish, Rudy Sablan struck the window of his cell with his closed fist. Then he began to tear up paper items such as institutional paperwork and holiday cards and throw them into the hallway of the unit. The officer asked him why he had thrown the trash into the hall. Rudy Sablan told him to get the fuck away from his window. He then told the officer, "Look, man, I'm usually quiet in here, but I will fucking hurt you if I have to." They outlined so many things in their attempt to kill me. They wanted me dead. They wanted me gone. They wanted to strap me to that table and inject that vicious potion into my veins. They wanted to watch me take my last breath. But the court wouldn't have it. Instead, they let me live. Sent me off to ADX, right next door to where I had just committed this brutal murder. I served my time there. They found me suitable to go back into population among the living. Many murders here. There's been many murders here at this complex, such as James Curtis Martin. He was stabbed in the neck and strangled. It only accentuates the level of violence at USP Florence. The federal system is in chaos, USP Florence prisoner Joseph Doherty testified at the Francis Haney trial. All they can do is prosecute the winner. See, I was the winner and they prosecuted me. And the AB is purportedly smack dab in the middle of some of these acts, not only at ADX but throughout the USP. According to a 100-page indictment unsealed in Los Angeles, back in the day, the AB was run by Barry Byron Mills and Tyler Davis Bingham, both ADX prisoners. According to the indictment, in 1980, the AB established the Federal Commission to run the AB inside the USP. So you heard about all this stuff, right? This is Florence, man. This is Florence, where death awaited you. Still awaits you. But it's in every USP. And they ask, was I the most dangerous prisoner? The most brutal? Will I live to commit another one? They put me back in population. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just stay here like an old man and wait till the devil calls me. Or maybe I'll lash out. I feel it sometimes. I feel the anger, the disrespect. Prison has changed so much since the first time I walked in. Sometimes I look at these young kids. A guy just like you, 18, 19, 20 years old, here serving 7 or 8 years. Thinks he's a tough guy. And sometimes I think about just killing him. Killing him because he acts tough. Killing him because he yells. There's others that are sometimes in other people's business. You hear them. You hear the gossip. Sometimes I watch the TV and I'm quiet, but I listen. And I think just because he's in someone else's business, perhaps I should just finish him here. Perhaps I should leave his blood on the razor wire. You want to know if I'm the most dangerous, violent prisoner? The most angry? The most brutal? Read about me. It's your decision. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out.